Hey guys, today we're going to go over the opportunities for the week and the direction of the market for the short term. But first, I want to take a look at last week's trade and see how that did, because I did tweet about Solana and I was looking for a short while it was at 75, 77. I was looking for it to retrace back towards the upside and give me that entry for the short down to 74.05. So let's see how that played out, because it was a pretty slow one. The retrace came up real quick over there on our entry at 76.63. And then we finally got a little bit of bleed, but it stalled over Friday and the weekend as we got some volatility in chop. But for the most part, it was heading in the right direction, respecting the upper trend line as we targeted 74.05. And you can see over the weekend, we did get continued weakness. So that was good to see. Made me more confident that by Monday, this trade would indeed drop towards the target. And that's exactly what it did. And I closed it out almost perfectly. That was the Solana trade from last week. That went really well. And this week, I've highlighted a couple of trades. We're going to be taking a look at XRP, Zcash, Aave, and Fartcoin. Those are the 4 trades we're going to be taking a look at, but we're going to kick it off with Bitcoin because it does control the rest of the altcoins. So with Bitcoin, we're looking at the range still. You can see we've been tapping the bottom, tapping the top, and the bottom being around 60K, or you could say 58, up to you where you really want to place this. But for the most part, we can see that 66K is what looks like to be the top. Now, within this range, we have another pattern that is seeming to form here, and that is this downward triangle pattern. You can see we have breached it a little bit today, but potentially this might resolve towards the downside as it's simply collecting liquidity, and the candle right now, as it stands right now at this minute of recording, doesn't look that great. So we might get something like this until we blast towards the upside and then blast back down. So that is my expectation here of what I expect Bitcoin to do, and that's going to influence my decisions on the altcoins. So with Bitcoin currently, I do think we're going to chop around here for a few days until it decides to come back down to 63,000 or 62,800, somewhere around this area. Now, with that being said, there are a couple of altcoins that are looking to make moves to the upside that I want to capture, and the first one being XRP. So XRP right here is what I'm looking at. It's in a large downtrend, and we're looking to simply catch the short squeeze towards the upside. You can see I've drawn this pattern out here up to about 1112, potentially might top out at 107. We'll have to see what kind of reaction it gets there, what the market is looking like. It requires constant monitoring to see if everything is matching my plans. So right now you can see there's potential entry on here between 987 and I'd say $1. This is ideal entry zone. Obviously stop would be down here below all these wicks. That's where the liquidity has already been grabbed. So there may be potentially another liquidity grab. We don't know. We simply have to take this opportunity as it presents itself because there are too many unknown variables. So what we're looking to capture here is the move towards the upside. And many times XRP has given us a move to the upside. You can see it happen multiple times, and I'll just highlight that for you right there and right there. So we know XRP likes to do these moves, and this time is no different. At least that's what we're expecting. So we'll have to wait and see if this actually comes to fruition. I think it'll be a pretty fast move. It's not a huge move. It's about an 11% move towards the upside that I'm expecting to capture. So we'll have to wait and see. That's about a 5.88R trade right there that I think is going to be pretty easy to capture. Now, my second favorite trade here is going to have to be Zcash. Now, I did tweet about Zcash on Twitter, and let me just see if I can find it. Right, there you go. Been waiting on Zcash short for a week, came in quick today, and it's looking like a squeeze to me. Could be a little early, and I was in fact a little early because I didn't spot the pattern the first time. You can see I just was simply targeting 520, but something about this move seemed like I hadn't read it correctly, and I ended up seeing this pattern form here. So I think we're going to get a little bit of a liquidity grab back up here, which is going to make for a better RR, because then what we can do is we can, wherever this candle resolves, we can target to the, obviously the first target would be right there. 452 would be the first target, but eventually I think we're going to go a lot lower, down to 250 potentially. So we've got a really nice short setting up for Zcash. So that means if it comes down here and it gives me a nice entry, I will take the long and trade it up to there. I think that would be worth taking. And then once we actually break out of this, I'm going to simply short it to the downside. So there's probably 2 parts to this trade that I'm looking to capture. And right now, we simply aren't in the position to capture the upside one. So that's my second trade that I'm looking to capture. My third trade is going to have to be Aave. And Aave, I'm looking to short this one as well. Right now, you can see we're putting up a move towards the upside with the target for today being around 92.45. We'll see if we can capture that. However, we have two targets here. We have the purple downtrend. You can see it's a lot smaller, and we have more volatile move towards the upside that we could potentially capture there at $93. So I'm not quite sure yet which target we're going to hit. I would like to see us go to $95. However, I'm not sure if we can make it. We'll have to wait and see. I'll have to see what Aave looks like by the time Bitcoin is ready to correct in a big way. So I have to be patient with this. I do want to short it all the way down, much lower, down to about $65 to $70. I think there's an opportunity there, but the setup has to come, and I would like it if we could go up to $94 or higher on Aave. So Aave is probably the more trickier one because I can't quite get a read on it. So I'm going to be a lot more patient with this one than I am with the rest. And finally, we're going to take a look at Fartcoin over here because Fartcoin also has an opportunity. Now, you can see I've also tweeted about Fartcoin as a coin that I've been watching, and I just took a trade on it today. I posted about it yesterday, or 2 days ago actually, and I said that give me a drop down to the trend line and I'm a buyer for Fartcoin. Won't be blind buy at the trend line. We'll need to see how price reacts, and that is still true. However, I'm going to take this short to the downside because the candle that we got here isn't looking too great. You can see rejection of price here as sellers unload their Fartcoin, but right now it's moving up because Bitcoin is moving up, and I could get stopped on this. I put my stop as high as I could in terms of making this RR desirable, and we'll have to wait and see if I get stopped out of this one. It's a high risk one, so I put on less of a risk. Instead of 1%, I put 0.5. Usually I like to put 1% in my trades. However, for a Fartcoin, because of its volatility, you can see here, even I contemplated taking a position here, but I didn't like the price action. It was just too choppy, and having to place any kind of stop loss in where I would usually place it would simply get me stopped out because that's not my setup. So I simply didn't see a setup here I was comfortable taking. Eventually it did go towards the downside, which I was looking for, but like I said, too choppy for me. However, here I can see a little bit of a downtrend, and my setup does allow for that. So what we're looking for here is a move down to the moving average and the trend line. We got confluence there about 1315.17. So I think we're going to get that move towards the downside. Plus we have this nasty candle coming in here, and I think that's going to provide us with fuel to the downside potentially. So we'll have to wait and see if that's the case or not. I'm bullish on Fartcoin as long as Bitcoin goes up. And right now, Bitcoin is going up. However, Fartcoin is just not in the right position to long, in my opinion. A long would be better attempted down here to target the upside rather than doing it right now. So we'll have to wait and see if we can actually get this move. If I am right, of course, I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't need to know what's going to happen. I simply need to trade my setup. Now, the final bonus coin that I forgot to put on the list here and just remembered was Pump. And Pump is an interesting one. Let me just pull it up. So Pump coin, right? It's been moving up a lot. You can see I have probably missed this move, right? However, I can catch whatever's left in it if it meets my criteria, which is come to the downside here, potentially come and grab liquidity here. And I'll be interested in buying it to trade it to the top. Not only that, but also we can short it down to the bottom as well. So there's two parts to this trade as well, which is give me an entry somewhere down here or at the box, and I will trade it to the upside. That'll be a desirable risk to reward. You can simply put your stop. Now, depending, there's two ways to play this, right? You could say, okay, I'm going to take this trade and buy it at the bottom of the range and then set the stop on the other side. Of course, you'll have a chance of getting stopped out, but that doesn't mean it's a bad trade. It just means there's a different way to play it. So this is part one of the long. And then the second part of the long would be it breaks your stop loss and you're like, okay, well, it didn't work. Let me try again. And we'll try it with a different criteria. So at some point, it'll try to form a reversal around this area right here. Let's put a box there so you guys know what I'm talking about. Let's remove this one so you don't get confused either. Okay, so there you go. So it'll try to form some kind of reversal pattern here. And all we have to do is put our stop below the last low, because if it's truly going to reverse, it shouldn't break this low. And then we're expecting it to actually move on up, grab liquidity. So that's still a 5.6 risk to reward trade. That's worth grabbing. And even if I take one loss on this, you can simply say it's a 4.6 R trade for attempting this trade. So that's just up to your personal preference and whether you like the setup or not. And then obviously the short here, we'll have to wait and see how price transpires, then take a short towards the downside all the way back to 1600 sats. So that is the last bonus trade I want to share with you guys, but this is the plan for the going week. We essentially have a couple of coins, and I'll go over them again. It is XRP, Zcash, Aave, Fartcoin, and Pump. So that's 5 coins for you guys. We'll have to wait and see how this actually begins to move over the next week, and I'll update you guys in the next video next week to see how this all played out. So if you're enjoying the content, make sure to subscribe, leave a comment down below, and I will see you guys on the next video next week. Take care and happy trading.